Welcome to Between the Covers with me, Shirley, and Don, who's at work today, where we take fantasy romance to a whole new level. Today, we're reading Chapter 5. I was promising to read Chapter 5 last week, but life has a way of working out her own way. We left off on Chapter 4 with Mikhail and Raven making love for the first time, and Mikhail hating himself for who he is and what he is, because he doesn't want to hurt Raven, and Father Hummer telling him to accept who he is and that God created him and his kind for a reason. Now, on to Chapter 5 reading. Chapter 5. Mikhail wrapped his arms around Raven's slender form and pulled her tight against his hard frame. His body curved protectively around hers. She was heavily asleep, her body light, her face pale. There were deep shadows beneath her eyes. He whispered to her softly, "I'm sorry for this, little one. Sorry I have placed you in this position. Beast that I am, I know I would do it again. You will not die. I will not allow it." He traced a line over the vein in his wrist, filled the glass beside his bed with the dark red liquid. "Hear me, Raven. You will drink this. Obey me in this." He pressed the glass to her pale lips and tilted some of the contents down her throat. His blood was very healing, would ensure her life. Raven choked, gagged, tried to turn her head away as she had before. "You will drink all of it." His command was stronger this time. She detested the contents, her body striving to reject it, but the force of his will won, as it always did. "Kyle," he heard the forlorn cry in his head, a protest even through layers of sleep. "You must drink, Raven. Continue your trust in me," he encouraged. She relaxed, obeying him reluctantly before sinking back into the layers of sleep. Mikhail caught a brief glimpse of her confused thoughts, the swirl of alarmed emotions. She believed she was fighting a nightmare. Her color was better. Satisfied, he lay down beside her. For a moment he considered erasing her memories of his taking of her innocence, but he would not arbitrarily decide for her. She had to be able to live with who and what he was. She would remember the blood exchange as only a part of her nightmare. He propped himself on one elbow, taking the time to study her face, her long, thick lashes, her flawless skin, and high cheekbones. It wasn't just her beauty. He knew that. It was what was inside her, the compassion and light that allowed her to accept his wild, untamed nature. It was beyond his imagination that such a miracle could occur. Just when he knew he would walk into the sun without hesitation, he had been sent an angel. A slow smile softened his mouth. His angel refused to do anything he told her. She responded far better when he thought to ask. He had been too long accustomed to obedience from all those under his protection. He had to remember that she was mortal, raised in a different time with different values. It was imprinted on male Carpathians from their birth that it was their duty to protect the women and children. With few women and no female children born in the last centuries, it was essential to safeguard every woman they had. Raven was mortal, not Carpathian. She did not belong in his world. When she left, she would take his color and emotions with her. She would take the very air he breathed. He closed his eyes against the thought. Where would he find the strength to let her walk away? He had so much to do before sunrise. He wanted to stay with her, hold her, persuade her not to leave him, tell her what was in his heart, tell her what she meant to him, tell her she couldn't leave him, that he might not survive. He wouldn't survive. He sighed heavily and rose once more. He needed to replenish himself and get to work. Again he crushed healing herbs and then thrust her more deeply into sleep. He was meticulous about the safeguards in his home and added a command to the creatures in the forest. If anyone came near his lair or threatened her in any way, he would know it immediately. At Mikhail's call, Jacques and Byron met him in the trees above Noel and Rand's home. Once the body had been discovered, it had been properly burned, as was their way. You touched nothing else? Mikhail asked. Only the body. All of their clothes and personal items were left as we found them, Byron assured him. Rand did not go back into the house. You know they must have some sort of trap set for you. The body was left deliberately as bait. Oh, I'm certain of that. That will use all the modern technology they can come up with. Cameras, I'm certain. Mikhail's dark features were brooding. They believe all the legends. Steaks, garlic, beheading. They are so predictable and primitive. There was a snarl in his voice, contempt for the murderers. They take so much trouble to learn about our kind before they condemn us to death. I'd like them to meet a true vampire. Byron and Jacques exchanged an uneasy glance. Mikhail, in this mood, could be lethal. His hooded eyes, burning with fury, slid over them. You stay and observe. If I get into trouble, you get out. Do not show yourselves, he hesitated. If something goes wrong, I ask a favor. Mikhail had slipped into old world formality. Byron and Jacques would lay down their lives for him. It was a rare privilege to be asked a favor by the prince of their people. My woman is sleeping deeply. She rests in my home. The safeguards are many and perilous. You must be careful and take great care to unravel them meticulously. She is to be healed, taught how to shield herself, and if she chooses, to stay in our protection. Through our bloodline, Jacques, you will inherit the mantle of leadership. I believe it should be offered to Gregory at this time. To give you time, you will need to educate yourself to lead. If Gregory should refuse to accept, and most likely he will, my mantle will pass to you, Jacques. You will find it not to your liking, as I suspect you are already aware. If such becomes the case, you will have to ensure Gregory's loyalty to you and to our people. You will do these things for me. Byron, you will aid Jacques as Gregory has aided me. Both of you will give your sworn allegiance to Gregory should he accept. And Jacques, never forget that as the vessel of our people, you will need someone from the Dar Ternazanov line as your right hand and protector. Both answered formally, speaking the words that bound them to their vow. Byron cleared his throat. Have you, that is she one of us? He ventured the question with caution. They all knew vampires had attempted the conversion of human women. They had even discussed the possibility that they try, because they were in such a desperate situation. The risk far outweighed the advantages. The women that had been converted had gone mad, had murdered small children, and had been impossible to save. Carpathians were born with their abilities and taught rigid discipline. The few who broke their laws were dealt with instantly and harshly. The race respected all forms of life. Because of their tremendous power, it had to be that way. Mikhail shook his head. I know that she is my true life mate. His words were terse, surly, daring them to continue the inquisition, warning them that it would be at their peril. I did not bind her to me. She is mortal, and it would be wrong. We will do as you wish, Byron reiterated with an uneasy glance at Jacques, who looked more amused than worried. Mikhail dissolved effortlessly, streamed down through the heavy branches of the fir tree. Once on the ground, he took the form of a wolf. Mist couldn't follow a scent, and he needed the unique capabilities of his furred brethren. He would find spoor and follow it. After all, first and foremost, above all else, he was a predator. His shrewd intellect only served to enhance his hunting abilities. The wolf circled the clearing, wearily, nose close to the ground, examining each tree in the vicinity near the house. The wolf smelled death. It filled its nostrils with its sour, pungent odor. He began to crisscross the ground, covering every inch in his search pattern, identifying Rand's odor, Eric's, and Jacques'. He found where the assassins had approached the house. 3, no, 4 human men. He lingered over each scent until they were imprinted deeply in his mind. He took his time unraveling the macabre, gruesome story. The men had approached stealthily, even crawling from cover to cover at times. The wolf followed their path, straying here and there to cover ground, looking for hidden traps. At the door he paused, circled wearily, and backed off. Suddenly his hind legs dug into the dirt and he launched himself straight through a window, shattering glass and landing a good 6 feet into the room. Set up from across the door was a camera. The shutter would have been triggered by the opening of the door. Deep within the wolf's body, Mikhail's laughter was grim and without humor. The 4 assassins had returned to the scene of their grisly murder to set up the camera to capture images of his kind, which meant they had no idea who was Carpathian and who was human. If the assassins had guts, they would have stayed and waited for the body to be discovered. They had done their brutal business and had run like the cowards they were. Bile rose in his throat. The wolf shook its head, growled low. 3 of the scents were unknown to him. The 4th was familiar. A traitor. How much money had he received to betray Noel to the assassins? The wolf leapt again, crashing through the second window. The camera would take snapshots of a huge wolf, a blurred movement of shattered glass and mist, and the wolf again. Only Mikhail and only a few other hunters Jacques and Gregory, Adrian and Julian were capable of such speed in shape-shifting. One scent split off from the rest, wound into deep forest, came out near the timberline, very close to Edgar Hummer's cabin and Dr. Westheimer's office. The wolf stayed in the trees, staring at the small house behind the office with cruel, red, unblinking eyes. Abruptly, the wolf spun around, trotted back to where the assassins had split paths, and picked up the trail of the other three. It led straight to the inn where Raven was staying. Mikhail joined Byron and Jacques in the treetop. Three of them stay at the inn. I will recognize them when I'm close to them. Tomorrow I will escort my woman back to collect her things. While I'm there, I will be able to pick out their scents. There is no way of knowing if the others are involved. Until we find out, we will have to be very careful. They have a camera set up in the house. The trigger is on the door. Everyone needs to stay away from there. The two Carpathians nodded in agreement. Mikhail was silent for a long moment. Does Celeste go to Dr. Westheimer? He finally asked softly. I think she sees Hans Romanov's wife. She works with the doctor and delivers most of the babies, Jacques replied. And Eleanor? Mikhail asked. Jacques stirred uncomfortably. I believe so. This woman assisted Noel's birthing? Byron cleared his throat. Noel delivered the child at home, with Heidi Romanov helping her. Rand was there. I came at his call after the midwife left. Noel hemorrhaged. Rand had to give her blood. I stayed with Noel while Rand hunted. And no, Miss Romanov did not see any of it. There was no one close. I would have known. It was Hans Romanov who led the others to Noel. I do not know if his wife was involved, but someone informed the assassins that the Carpathians were reproducing. Mikhail gave the information in a soft monotone. His eyes burned, glowed, his body trembled with fury. His hands opened and closed, but his voice was perfectly controlled. It is necessary to know if the woman is involved. She must be, Byron snapped. Why are we waiting? Because we are not the barbaric animals these evil ones have named us. We have to know if the midwife is a traitor. And it is not your duty to dispense justice, Byron. It is not an easy thing to live with, the taking of life. Each kill brings the dark whispers of temptation closer into the lure of the vampire so strong it becomes impossible to resist. Mikhail had felt the weight of each of those lives down through the centuries, but as his power and responsibilities grew, so did the ease in which he killed. As his emotions had faded, it was only his strong will and sense of right and wrong that prevented him from losing his soul to the insidious whispers of the darkness struggling for supremacy. What do you want us to do? Jacques asked. It's not safe for Eleanor or Celeste to be in their homes. No more trips to the midwife. Take Celeste to my home above the lake. Eric will be able to study the ancient arts, which he has neglected. It's an easy place to defend. Eleanor cannot travel as far. They can use my home, Byron offered. They will be close if they need help. Eleanor was his sister, and he had always loved her dearly. Despite the fact that his emotions were long gone, he remembered what it felt like to have a sister. It is risky. If your relationship is known and she is under suspicion, or if you were seen assisting Rand. Mikhail shook his head, not liking the idea. Maybe they should take over my home. No. The simultaneous protests were instant and sharp. No, Mikhail, we cannot afford the risk to you. Jacques sounded alarmed. Our women come first, before any of us, Jacques, Mikhail reminded him gently. Without them, our race will die. We can have sex with humans, but we cannot procreate with them. Our women are our greatest treasures. Each of you must eventually mate and father children, but be certain the one you choose is your true life mate. All of you know the signs, colors, emotions, the burning for her. The bond is strong. When one dies, the other usually chooses to follow into the next life. It is death or vampire. We all know the truth of that. But Rand, Byron trailed off. Rand became impatient with the waiting. Noelle was obsessed with him. But they were not true life mates. I think they ended up hating each other, trapped in the sickness of their relationship. He will survive her passing. Mikhail worked to keep the disgust from his voice. True life mates could not survive long without each other. That fact, and the high mortality rate of their children, had taken a huge toll on their dwindling race. His people were scattered throughout the mountain range. A few even dwelt in other countries, but most could not live easily without their own soil. Mikhail was not certain his people would survive into the next century. No matter how hard he tried, he could not find the hope necessary to keep the males from turning vampire. Mikhail, Jacques chose his words carefully. Only you and Grigory know the secrets of our race. You know Grigory will choose his solitary existence. Only you can teach the rest of us, lead us, help us to grow. If we are to survive and grow strong again, it cannot be done without you. Your blood is the life of our people. Why do you say this to me? Mikhail snapped, not wanting to hear the truth. Jacques and Byron exchanged a long, uneasy glance. We have been concerned for some time about your continued withdrawal. My withdrawal was inevitable and is hardly your business. You have chosen to remain completely alone, even among those of us you call blood kin, Jacques went on. What is it you're trying to say? Mikhail snapped impatiently. He had been away from Raven for too long. He needed to see her, hold her, touch her mind with his. We cannot afford to lose you, and if you do not wish to continue your life, you will begin to take greater risks, become careless. Jacques drawled slowly. Their eyes met. Jacques refused to flinch. Make mistakes. Mikhail's dark, brooding eyes slowly warmed, and a smile tugged at the hard corners of his mouth, softening the lines of his beautifully chiseled features. You young devils, how have you managed to watch me without my knowledge? The alpha pair fear for you also, Jacques admitted. As I am of your blood and under your protection, they accept and speak with me. They watch over you when you take your solitary walks, and when you run with the pack. They say there's no joy in you. Mikhail laughed softly. I need a good wolf hide for this winter. Whatever my feelings, Noelle was our sister and one of our people. I will not rest until her murderers are brought to justice. Jacques cleared his throat. a cocky grin dispelling the ruthless set of his dark features. I do not suppose this woman you are hiding has anything to do with your sudden desire to rise with the night. The toe of Mikhail's boot nearly pushed Jacques from his perch in retaliation for his audacity. Byron caught at the branch with a tight grip. Eleanor and Vlad can stay with me. It will be double protection for her and her unborn child. Mikhail nodded. Oh, he was uncomfortable with the decision. He could see that they would continue their protest if he insisted on taking the personal risk. For a couple days until we find a safer solution. Take great care, Mikhail, Jacques warned. Sleep deeply tomorrow, he responded. They hunt us. Byron paused, suddenly alarmed. How can you go to ground if the human woman is with you? I will not leave her. Mikhail's voice was implacable. The deeper we are in the earth, the harder to hear your call if you are in trouble, Jacques reminded quietly. Mikhail sighed. You two are as relentless as two old maiden ants. I'm certainly capable of protecting my lair. His body shimmered, bent, and became that of an owl. He spread giant wings and soared into the sky, making his way back to Raven. He inhaled deeply, filling himself with the pure, clean scent of her, wiping out the ugliness of the night's discoveries. Her scent was in the library, mingling with his. He took their combined scents deep within his lungs, bent to pick up their scattered clothing. He wanted to be inside her, to touch her, to fasten his mouth to hers, and their blood one, to recite the ritual words so that they would be tied for eternity the way they were meant to be. The thought of her offering him that gift, accepting his offering, was so arousing that Mikhail had to stand still until the urgent demands of his body eased somewhat. He took a long shower, washing away the wolf from his body, the dust and dirt, the odor of a traitor. All Carpathians took great care to acquire the habits of mortals. Food in the cupboards, and clothes in the closets, lamps throughout the house. All of them took showers when there was no real need, and most of them found they enjoyed it. He left his coffee-colored hair hanging free and went to Raven. For the first time he took pride in his body, the way he hardened, thrusting aggressively at the side of her. She was asleep, her hair spilling like a curtain of silk across the pillow. The blanket had slipped, and her long hair was the only covering across her breasts. The picture was erotic. She lay waiting for him, needing him even in her sleep. He gently murmured the command to release her from her trance-induced sleep as he pulled the blanket the rest of the way off. She lay gleaming in the moonlight, her skin soft, the color of peaches. Mikhail slid his hand over the contour of her leg. The feel of her jolted his insides. He stroked her hips and then traced her small, tucked-in waist. Raven stirred, shifted restlessly. Mikhail stretched out beside her, pulled her into the shelter of his arms, his chin resting on the top of her head. He wanted her any way he could get her, but he owed her some semblance of honesty, at least as much as he dared to give her. She emerged from the layers of sleep slowly, burrowing against his hard strength as if for comfort from a bad dream. How could a human possibly understand the needs of a Carpathian male in the sexual frenzy of a true mating ritual? Down through the long ages, he had feared few things, yet more than anything, he feared to see himself through her innocent eyes. He knew by her breathing the moment she was fully awake, and by her sudden tension that she realized where she was and with whom. He had taken her innocence brutally and nearly taken her life. How could she forgive such a thing? Raven closed her eyes, trying desperately to separate fact from fiction, reality from fantasy. Her body was sore, hurting in places she didn't know she had. She felt different, more sensitive. Mikhail's body against hers was like hot marble, immovable and aggressive, unbearably sexy. She could hear the creaks and rustles of the house acutely, the sway of branches outside the window. She pushed at the wall of Mikhail's chest to try to put space between their bodies. Mikhail tightened his arms, buried his face in her hair. If you can touch my mind, Raven, you know what I feel for you. His voice was husky, vulnerable. In spite of herself, Raven felt her heart turn over. I do not want you to leave me, little one. Have the courage to stay with me. Perhaps I am a monster. I do not know any more. I truly do not. Only that I need you to stay with me. You could have made me forget, she pointed out, more for herself than for him. More of a question than a statement. He had been wild, but she couldn't say that he hurt her. Rather that he had taken her to the very stars. I thought about it, he admitted reluctantly. But I do not want that between us. I'm sorry. I was not more careful with your innocence. She heard the ache in his voice and felt an answering one in her body. You know you made sure I felt pleasure. Ecstasy was more like it. A baptism by fire. An exchange of souls. His was wild, and he had swept her up with him in the firestorm. And she wanted him again, craved his touch, the driving strength of his body. But he was dangerous, really, really dangerous. She knew that now. She knew he was different, that something lived in him more animal than man. Mikhail, Raven pushed against the solid wall of his chest. She needed to breathe, to think without feeling the heat of his skin and the urgent demands of his body. Do not do this. His voice was a sharp command. Do not shut me out. You're talking about a commitment to something so beyond anything I can imagine. Raven bit at her lip. My home is far from here. You have nothing but sorrow there, Raven. He refused to let her use that as an excuse. You know you will not survive on your own. And although it is in your mind to deny them your talents when they come to you with another hideous case, you know in your heart you'll be unable to say no. It is not in you to allow a killer to go free when you might save his next victim. His hand bunched in the silken length of her hair, as if that could hold her to him. They cannot care for you as I can. What of our differences? You have this attitude toward women. as if we're second-class citizens and not too bright. Fortunately, you have the capability to force your will on anyone who might oppose you. And I would, all the time. I have to be myself, Mikhail. He lifted the weight of her hair from the nape of her neck and brushed a kiss, feather light, on her exposed skin. You know my attitude toward women reflects my need to protect them. Not that I think them less than myself. Oppose me all you wish, little one. I love everything about you. His thumb stroked the soft swell of her breast, heating her blood, sending a shiver of excitement down her spine. Raven wanted him wild and untamed, wanted him needing her. He was so in control. It was a powerful aphrodisiac to realize she could make him lose that control. Mikhail bent his head to the hardened nipple beckoning him. His tongue touched her gently. He kissed the velvet peak, drew her creamy flesh into the moist, hot cavern of his mouth. Raven made a sound, a soft sigh, closed her eyes. Her body was coming alive, every nerve ending screaming for his touch. She felt boneless, pliant, her body melting into the heat of his. She didn't want this. Tears burned in her throat behind her eyes. She didn't want this, but she needed it. Don't hurt me, Mikhail. She whispered the words against the heavy muscles of his chest. It was a plea for their future. Raven knew he would never hurt her physically, but their life could be very stormy together. He lifted his head, shifted so that his weight pinned her beneath him. His dark eyes moved possessively over her small, fragile face. He cupped her face with his thumb, stroking across her chin, her full lower lip. Do not fear me, Raven. Can you not feel the strength of my emotions, my tie to you? I would give my life for you. Because he wanted truth between them, he admitted the inevitable. It will not be easy, but we will work things out between us. His hand stroked her flat stomach, moved lower to nestle in the midnight black curls. Her hand stilled his. What happened to me? She was confused. Had she fainted? Everything was so jumbled. She knew for certain Mikhail had forced her to drink some disgusting medicinal concoction and had placed her in a deep sleep. Later, there had been nightmares. She was used to nightmares. Every violent psychic experience triggered them, but this had been horrible and very personal. In it, she had been forced to a naked chest, her mouth clamped to a terrible wound, blood running like a river forced down her throat. She choked, gagged, fought, but somehow in her nightmare world she could not pull away. She tried to call for Mikhail for help, and then she had looked up, and there he was, looking down at her with his dark, mysterious eyes, his hand forcing her head against the wound in his chest. Was it because she was in the heart of Dracula country, and Mikhail reminded her of a dark, mysterious prince? Raven couldn't help herself. She smoothed gentle fingertip over his unblemished chest. Something had happened to her. She knew she was changed for all time, that she was somehow a part of Mikhail, and he was a part of her. Mikhail's knee gently pushed her legs apart. He shifted once more above her, blocking out everything with his broad shoulders. He took her breath away with his size and power, his strength and beauty, very gently, in the way he should have the first time. He eased into her. Raven gasped. She would never get over the way he filled her, stretched her, the way he could turn her body to liquid fire. If he had been wild the first time, he was tender and gentle this time. Every deep stroke built a heavy craving for more, an urgency that had her hands caressing the chiseled muscles of his back, her mouth moving over his neck, his chest. Mikhail worked at control, called on his extraordinary discipline. Her mouth was driving him mad. The feel of her fingers on his skin, Raven, was so tight. Hot velvet gripped him, fed the fires. He could feel the beast in him fighting to break free, his hunger raging, his body moving harder, faster, burying itself in her, merging their bodies, their hearts. He opened his mind, sought hers. The need in her drove him on. Her fingernails dug into his back as wave after wave rippled through her body. Mikhail gave in to the fire before the beast could break free. He surged into her, felt her body tight and hot grip his. He allowed himself a low growl of total satisfaction. Mikhail lay over her slender body, still joined to her, momentarily sated. He felt her tears on his chest, lifting his head slowly. He bent to taste her tears. Why do you cry? How will I ever find the strength to leave you? She murmured softly, painfully. His eyes darkened dangerously. Mikhail rolled over, felt how uncomfortable she was with her nudity, and dragged a blanket around her. Raven sat up, pushed the heavy fall of her hair from her face with that curiously innocent, sexy gesture of hers that he loved. Her blue eyes were frankly weary. You will not leave me, Raven. His voice was much harsher than he intended. With great effort, he forced himself to gentle it. She was young and vulnerable. He had to remember that, above all else, she had no idea what the cost of separation would be to either of them. How can you share what we have and just walk away? You know why. Don't pretend you don't. I feel things, sense them. It's all too bizarre for me. I don't know the laws in this country, but when someone is murdered, the law and the press are notified. That's just one thing, Mikhail. We don't even get into the things we're capable of doing. Nearly strangling Jacob, for heaven's sake. You're way out of my league, and we both know it. She pulled the blanket closer around her shoulders. I want you. I can't even think about being without you, but I'm not certain what is going on here. His hand stroked down the length of her hair in a disturbing caress, his fingers moving through silken strands to wisp down her back to the base of her bare spine. His touch melted her insides and curled her toes. Raven closed her eyes, laid her head on her knees. She was no match for him in any way. Mikhail shifted his hand to her nape, his fingers soothing. We are already committed to one another. Can you not feel it, Raven? He whispered the words, a husky blend of warmth and sensuality. He knew he was fighting her instincts, her innate sense of self-preservation. He chose his words carefully. You know who I am, what is inside me. If distance separated us, you would still need to feel my hands on you, my mouth on yours, my body in yours, a part of yours. Just as his words alone warmed her blood, fed the ache deep inside, Raven covered her face, ashamed that she had such need of what amounted to a total stranger. I'm going home, Mikhail. I'm so wrapped up in you. I'm doing things I never thought possible. It wasn't only physical. She wished it were. She didn't want to feel his loneliness, his greatness, his incredible will and drive to keep those he led safe from harm. But she did feel it. She could feel his heart, his soul, his mind. She had talked to him without speaking aloud. She had shared his mind. She knew he was in her. His arm curved around her shoulders, drew her huddled form beside him to comfort or to restrain. Raven swallowed the burning tears. There were sounds pouring into her head, rustlings, creaks. She put her hands over her ears to shut them out. What's happening to me, Mikhail? What did we do that's changed me like this? You are my life, my mate, the half of myself that was missing. His hand returned to stroking her hair with infinite gentleness. My people mate for life. I am a Carpathian of the earth. We have special gifts. She turned her head, regarding him with enormous blue eyes. Telepathic ability. Yours is very strong, much stronger than mine. It's so developed. It amazes me the things you can do. The price for those gifts is high, little one. We are cursed with the need for one mate, a sharing of souls. Once this occurs, and the ritual can be brutal to an innocent woman, we cannot live apart from our mates. Our children are few. We lose many in the first year, and most of those born are male. We are both blessed and cursed with longevity. For those of us who are happy, a long life is a blessing. For someone alone and tormented, it's a curse. It's one long eternity of darkness, a barren, stark existence. Mikhail cupped her chin in the palm of his hand and tipped it up so that she could not escape his dark, hungry eyes. He took a deep breath and let it out. We did not have sex, little one. We did not make love. Ours was as close to a true Carpathian mating ritual as is possible without your being of our blood. If you leave me, his voice trailed off, and he shook his head. He needed to bind her to him irrevocably. You are my life mate. I claim you as my life mate. The words imprinted on every Carpathian male before birth echoed through his mind and resounded in his heart. The beast raged to say them. She would never escape. Yet he could not do that to her. Say the words to a mortal. He had no idea what would happen to her. The spot over her left breast ached, throbbed, even burned. Raven looked down and saw the dark evidence of his brand and touched it with her fingertips. She remembered the feel of his teeth pinning her to the floor, his strength, the warning growl rumbling in his throat like that of an animal. He had taken her body as if it belonged to him, wildly, a little brutally, yet something in her had responded to his ferocious hunger and need in him. At the same time, he had been tender, ensuring her pleasure before his own, so careful of her size and the fragility of her small bones. The mixture of his tenderness and wild nature was so impossible to resist. Raven knew no other man could ever touch her as he had. There would only be Mikhail for her. Are you telling me you're of another race, Mikhail? She was striving to put all the pieces of information together. We believe that we are of another species. We are different. We hide it well. We have to. But we can hear things humans cannot. We can speak to animals, share our minds as well as our bodies and hearts. Understand this information in the wrong hands would doom us all. My life is literally in your hands in more ways than one. She caught the echo of his thought before he could censor it. Would you have stopped if I had panicked? He closed his eyes, ashamed. I would like to lie to you, but I will not. I would have soothed you, made certain you could accept me, commanded me. No, he denied vehemently. He would not have gone that far. He was certain of that. He believed absolutely that he could have persuaded her to accept him. These gifts, she rubbed her chin across her knees. You are stronger, physically, than any human I've ever met. And that leap in the library, you reminded me of a great jungle cat. Is that part of your heritage too? Yes. His hand dangled in her hair again, brought a fistful up to bury his face in it, breathing her in. His scent lingered on her, would remain in her. A trace of satisfaction touched his fathomless eyes. You bit me. She touched first her neck, then her breast. A sweet hot ache filled her at the memory of him wild in her arms, his body frenzied with need, his mind a turbulent red desire, his mouth working eagerly, hungrily at her. What was wrong with her that she wanted more? She had heard of women so enthralled by sex that they were virtual slaves. Was that what was happening to her? She flung up a hand as if to ward him off. Mikhail, this is happening so fast. I can't fall in love in a couple of days or decide my life in a few minutes. I don't know you. I'm even a little bit afraid of you, of what you are, the power you wield. You said you trusted me. I do. And that's what makes me so crazy. Can't you see that? We're so different. You do crazy things, yet I want to be with you, hear your laughter, argue with you. I want to see your smile and the way your eyes light up, the hunger and need in you when you look at me. I want to take that coldness from your eyes, that distant, faraway stare when your mouth hardens and you look cruel and ruthless. Yes, I trust you, but I have no reason to. You're very pale. How do you feel? He wanted to tell her it was too late, that they had gone too far, but he knew it would only build her resistance and alarm her needlessly. Funny, sort of sick to my stomach. I feel like I should eat something, but the thought of food makes me ill. You gave me one of your herb concoctions, didn't you? Drink water and juices for a few days. A little fruit, no meat. I'm a vegetarian. She looked around. Where are my clothes? He grinned unexpectedly. A perfect male smirk. I got carried away and ripped your jeans. Just stay with me tonight, and I'll get you new clothes tomorrow. It's nearly morning now, she pointed out, unwilling to lie down with him again. She couldn't lie beside him and not burn for him. Besides, I want a shower. Before Mikhail had a chance to protest, Raven slid off the bed, wrapped safely in the old-fashioned quilt, clearly thinking herself safe from him now that she had put a little distance between them. And that's a wrap on Chapter 5 of Dark Prince. And join us next week for Chapter 6, where we figure out whether Raven is going to leave or stay. What was your favorite part of Chapter 5? Or your favorite quote? Drop it in the comments and let me know. So pour yourself another cup and join us again next week. And if you've missed any episodes, you can subscribe on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Links are in the description below, so you never miss another episode of Between the Covers.